Welcome in, hockey fans in the desert Southwest, and I do mean the desert. It's a wet desert today as we visit with Jeff Holbrook up here at the Las Vegas as we prepare for reliving the Miracle on Ice. Relive the Miracle 2020 is coming our way. Jeff, you're the guy that had the brainstorm on this, or tell me how this all came about.
Well, it's funny because brainstorm. I'm not sure if that's you have to have brains to have a brainstorm. But the whole thing started basically. I had been doing some events with some iconic athletes, Wayne Gretzky and guys like that, and I was with Mike Ramsey and Dave Christian, and talking about. I had an event I did with them and talking about what they do with the Miracle on Ice. He goes, well, we don't really do that much. So it started clicking with me. Well, it's sort of a big deal,
right?
And so put together, conversations with them and my thought through, and frankly with my family we talked about what would be cool and getting them all together to talk about it, because that's what people like to know. It's like the stories that people don't know. So got them together in Lake Placid. We still weren't sure how it was going to go right up until the day of. There's a blizzard in Lake Placid. It's like, oh, is anybody going to come to this thing? Got all the living players there for the only like the second time in history, and first time in Lake Placid, and building was sold out. An amazing event. The guys loved it. The fans loved it. And as I was walking around at that event and talking to people about it, I was taken back by, I thought most of the people would be from Lake Placid. But, they were, no, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. I'm from wherever. And I said, well, this obviously has legs it carries. So when we started thinking about the 40th and how well that one went and some of the mistakes we made and some of the ways we could have made it better, we thought out, well, maybe we'll take it to a bigger market where more people can see it, and so which isn't as difficult to get to. And so Las Vegas, at the time that we were formulating the plan for the 40th, the Golden Knights were starting to come into existence and started to really take off, and the market really embraced the team. And I thought, there might be some here in Vegas is the town of events. So I thought bringing it here would make sense. Since then, the Golden Knights have embraced it. The market has embraced it. The players have certainly embraced it, and so we're excited about the possibilities and making it even better than the 35th.
Okay, so 40 years, right? I mean, I was just telling you off camera, I look back in 1980, I'm a 17-year-old. I'm up in my bedroom in an old Victorian house in northern Minnesota, watching on a 13-inch black and white TV.
Yeah.
Now you speed ahead to 40 years, and I'm talking with hockey players right now that only know the Miracle by the movie.
Yeah.
How cool is this going to be to bring these actual players here and be able to visit with them and let them tell us their story?
Well, to me, part of the beauty of it, and again, I've been lucky enough in my career to work with some of the biggest names in sports history, like I said, Wayne Gretzky and Joe Montana and guys like that, and it's like the stories are what make it great.
Yeah.
Like most of us have seen it, so there's that. But to bring them all together, and another part that I've really been taken aback by since then, but especially recently, is people that get this really get it.
Yeah.
Right. It sort of gets its hooks in you. And the stories that I've heard from people, like, this is where I was, like you said, I've been getting those, and that makes me feel really good, and it makes me feel like, everybody knows where they were, and so for the people that it's important to, giving them the opportunity to hear things they've never heard is great. You touched on something to me that sort of separates the Miracle on Ice from everything else. Not just that it was the greatest sports moment in American history, which it was, voted so by Sports Illustrated and ESPN, etc. But also, the comparison I make is I'm sure that the 1965 Green Bay Packers were a great bunch of guys, but they didn't have the movie to perpetuate it. And the story was so great, but with the movie being able to perpetuate the story to the youth, there's kids that are playing hockey now that are 5 years old that know the story. So it's such a unique it's such a unique possibility to bring generations together, and not every story is a USA story where we can all get involved. There's not whether you're in Minnesota or Massachusetts or New York or California, all one country, all can share pride in one event, and that doesn't happen very often either.
Absolutely. Well, I had a chance to visit with a group from the Junior Coyotes in Arizona last week, and they were telling me they just got back from a trip to Lake Placid. And their coach was telling me that he got teary-eyed and choked up on the 1980 rink when they played the national anthem. So that's how deep this reaches. And what's really neat is, and I've been around here now for 5 years dealing in hockey. I've been here for 29 years in the Desert Southwest. I didn't think I would ever see the Desert Southwest explode in hockey. Austin Matthews, the growth of the Vegas Golden Knights. And I was at a game last night, and I watched them, and I said, what do I do on this, okay? Because Toronto's here, and Toronto had a lot of fans for Vegas. And I thought, did they try to get their Go Leafs Go thing going, right?
Yeah.
And Vegas stormed them, right?
Oh, yeah.
They have pride. So no doubt in my mind, this event is going to go off big time, but tell me your thoughts and what you'd like to see. And first of all, what's going to happen?
Well, I'll start out with what my expectations are, and it's sort of a selfless thought that I have. Anytime I've been involved with these guys, frankly, any athlete I've been involved with, but particularly these guys, I want to make it great for them.
Yeah.
They deserve it. And
sure.
when you know these guys, they're the nicest, most humble group of guys, and there's magic in when you get them all together. Right. That's different than if you just have Jim Craig or Mike Ruzioni or whoever else it is. When you get them all together, it's different. Then you're really talking about the real deal here, and it's not one person's recollection. It's the entire group's recollection and how they interact. So that is very special. What's going to happen is the guys are going to be on stage, they're going to be introduced. We're going to go through stories and artifacts and video and audio of things that people have never seen before, whether it's the gold medal or the stick a guy used, or just stories from behind the scenes that people have never heard. When you add to that, one of the beauties of bringing it to this market and getting it to a place that's a little easier to get to is the people that were interested the first time in being involved, NHL players, celebrities, people from the movie.
Right.
It's pretty easy to get. Like, a lot of them are here already, and
right.
I'm already getting phone calls from guys, can I come? Well, yeah, you're in the Hall of Fame, I guess you can come, right? So we're going to take this opportunity to hear stories from people in and out of hockey, celebrities, that, what the Miracle on Ice meant to them, where they were, all the rest of it, and sort of bring that together with the team and basically what it means to America. And when I get back to this, I feel a responsibility. I want it to be sold out.
Yeah.
I want people to just, and I say that from both sides. The guys deserve it, but I'm telling you, as somebody who's been there, there's only 10,000 of us that were in Lake Placid to see it. It's amazing. I mean, it's an amazing event, and so I want to give people the opportunity to see that and really give the guys what they want, what they deserve.
Okay, Connection, 40 years, obviously. It's on the same time frame in February this year. They're going to be coming here to Vegas, UNLV, but they're also going to be honored by the Golden Knights. They have a chance to be out in front of 19,000 screaming people at a Golden Knights game as well. So how did that all tie in?
Well, the Golden Knights, full candor, to say I shopped it is too strong a word, but I went to a lot of my relationships in the NHL because I was in the NHL for 20 years.
Yeah. And
said, hey, how do you feel about this? And there's some warm responses, but people didn't just grasp it the way that the Golden Knights did. And I was just lucky. They really stepped. They saw the value in it. They saw the magic in it, and some parallels with their team and how
Sure.
in the middle of the desert we make it to the Stanley Cup Finals first year, nobody thought. So I can't say enough about how much they embraced it above and beyond other teams as well. That they got it, and since then they've really helped. And so from that aspect, to say one of the hottest teams in the NHL, if not the hottest team in the NHL from a brand perspective, takes the time to get involved with this and puts the time into honoring them the way on the ice in front of the people that they should be. That's pursuant to what I just said earlier. Right. I want to do it right for these guys. I want them to feel to be honored the way that they should have been all these years, and the Golden Knights have certainly stepped up to take it to the next level to be able to do that.
Well, pardon the pun, but Golden Knights and a gold medal kind of go together hand in hand too. But so tell me a little bit about who's coming in. I know the backstory. Tell everybody out there, every living player that can possibly get here is going to be here, correct?
Yeah, they're all right now. They're all planning on being here. Signed contracts from the guys, and again, that just goes down basically to the magic of having them all together.
Yeah.
Not most people, but a lot of people have heard the Mike Ruzioni story about things, and Jim Craig, people that are out in the sort of the face of it more so. But to hear Eric Strobel talk about it, or Phil Vercoda, or Neil Broughton, these guys, and on top of that, these are pretty accomplished guys. Like Mike Ramsey played 1,200 NHL games. This is just. I remember saying to Mike at one point, I said, do you ever think about that? It's funny that you played 1,200 NHL games and all you're known for is a Miracle on Ice. And he said, there's worse things to be known for,
Right. So, don't blame him a bit on that.
Yeah, exactly. So bringing all the guys together and just pulling the stories out of them, and they act differently when they're around each other.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. Like, that brotherhood of being on a team together, no matter whether it's Pee Wee, Bantam, whatever, or winning the gold medal. When you get them all together and being able to pull those stories out of them, it's like a treasure trove to me. To me, it's such a knowing, having been on the inside a little bit and hearing some of the stories, it's such a treasure trove of things that people haven't heard I think that it's brilliant, and I can't wait for people to hear it and see it.
All right, let's take one quick break. Let's come back and finish up this and just build the excitement a little bit about it. I know we're looking forward to it. We're going to be here all weekend with you guys, so it's going to be a really fun time. But let's take one quick break, and we'll come right back.
That's good.
Hey, Michael here from M-Drive. My dad, a world-class scientist, actually made M-Drive for himself to stay active and continue enjoying life. And yes, M-Drive supports healthy testosterone, but it's so much more. M-Drive is the everyday supplement to fuel your drive with more energy and more strength. Listen, we'd love for you to try M-Drive too. Visit mdriveformen.com and we'll give you 20% off your first purchase. Just type in the code DRIVE at checkout. Refine your prime with M-Drive.
Welcome back in. I've got Jeff Holbrook with me. Jeff has got a lot of big news, and I know you guys have been sitting on this for a little while because it took a little time to plan it all out. I've been a little bit privy to the inside stuff for a little while, and I had to bite my tongue about 50 times when I talked to your partner, Brendan Shaw, and Brendan did too. It's here now, though, right? We're talking about it. I'm looking at the website on my phone, www.relivethemiracle2020.com.
Yeah.
Start to finish. Tell me what this is going to be like. It's the 22nd of February is when everything's happening here, but there's stuff going on around it, right?
Oh yeah, there's because it's such a historical event, and because it it touches in with USA Hockey, the NHL, all of it. Because of all those things, it's sort of taken on, and with the Golden Knights, it's taken on its own life. So there'll be an event with the Golden Knights on Friday, and some of their a few thousand of their season ticket holders, and then our big event is on Saturday afternoon at 2:00.
Right.
As you said, www.relivethemiracle2020.com. Go there to get tickets. Thomas Mack Center, it holds 12 to 17,000 people depending upon the demand. So what you're it's gonna be a weekend full of events, but what you're gonna see, and the thing that makes it so special, is that event on Saturday, the Relive the Miracle event, and we're going to show highlights from the games. We have things that people have never seen before. Frankly, I as much research as I've done into it and things I've seen, I've never seen some of the things, people sending in pictures and video and audio and all the rest of it. So there's going to be all kinds of that, but also scenes from the movie,
right?
Scenes from the movie where you say, our friends at Disney have been great about saying, you can use some footage of the movie. So being able to actually say, did that really happen?
Right.
And there's some of it, I heard an interesting story from Bill Baker recently, who he said, that some people ask me all the time about the part in the movie where he goes again, and did that happen? Yeah, it did happen. He goes, but the funny thing about it is, for those of us that played for Herb at the University of Minnesota, that was every Monday.
Right.
We went through that every Monday. The only people making a big deal out of it were the Boston guys. Right. He goes, so to hear that sort of insight and candor and the ribbing back and forth is great stuff. So there's also some highly confidential added twists that are going to come that are certainly in the history of the event have never happened.
Right. And
so and again, when you add the star power to it, as far as celebrities that are going to be there, it's going to be something special, and it's certainly worth coming up. And and again, it's Vegas. It's a weekend. You can come up on a Friday. Go to the event, go to the game that night. See the sights, do all the rest of it. So it should be a great weekend.
Well, I'm going to tell you how important it is to us. Not that you probably care.
No, I do.
But
I do.
My co-host is flying out from New York City for the weekend. I'm bringing up my photographer that weekend. We're all going to be here. We're going to start. We do a college hockey podcast, College Hockey Southwest Weekly, where we cover Arizona State and hopefully more teams in the Desert Southwest in the future. We're going to do our show here. ASU will wrap up their regular season in Wisconsin that weekend. Okay. We're doing our show right here from Vegas because this is a big deal. Mm-hmm. It's a big deal to us. It's a big deal to everybody out there. I can't stress enough, if you have not partaken in any of their events in the past, you need to come out to this one, because 40 years is a big time. We don't know how many are going to be here, let's be honest, in 50 years, right?
That's the
or
truth.
60.
For our 35th, we lost, Bob Suter, and
Right.
that was, nothing lasts forever, and we want to make sure that we get the chance to honor them the way they deserve to be honored, while as many of them are here as possible, obviously.
And obviously we're talking a sport, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we all know, all of us that were around back then, know what that meant to the country. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a rough time for our country, and it was a Cold War situation. And these guys rallied the troops, so to speak, didn't they?
Oh, they did, and again, to give examples of part of the reason I got involved with this, and part of the reason it means so much to me is I was lucky enough to work with Wayne Gretzky for all those years, and one of the things that I was most taken aback by was, and I used to say to people all the time, I go, it's just the darndest thing. You see presidents of countries just cower in his presence, like, oh, Wayne Gretzky. And the only thing I've ever really been around that elicits that same sort of response is the Miracle on Ice. Like,
Right.
people, I know where I was. Oh my God, can you believe it? And like people, when I've done events with them where it's autograph signings, some people have got their newspaper from that day and all
Right.
this. So it's in a funny last story. When I made the decision to finally do it in Lake Placid, because there's a lot, there's all the reasons to or not to, and financial and all the rest of it. My final decision came down. I asked my mother, who I wouldn't say she's a big sports fan. She was obviously in the house when I was around, but she's not a huge sports fan. And she's 89 years old. And I said to her, I go, Mom, do you remember the Miracle on Ice? And I was waiting for a response, and it was sort of my go-to. And she goes, oh, yes, I do, Jeffrey. I was on an airplane, and the pilot got on the PA system and announced that we had beaten the Russians, and they gave us all a free drink. And I said, yeah, we got to do this then, Mom. So it's it tugs at the heartstrings, everybody, and it's such. At the end of the day, it really comes down to one thing. It is such a great story. I mean,
I know.
it's amazing.
I know it.
Yeah.
And I told you off camera that I grew up in northern Minnesota, right, and where I was and all this and that. And one of the things that I always comes back, and I'm sure this is going to be a question because it was in the movie and everything else about, they played a practice game, a preliminary game in Thief River Falls, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Very small town in
Yeah.
northern Minnesota.
Yeah.
And they were taking off in this small airplane. Anybody that's ever been there, the airport is very small. They're taking off in a small airplane, and they hit a moose, or they were derailed by a moose on the runway at some point in time. And it's a real life story that we'll get the facts from the guys on it, but
Absolutely.
it's an interesting concept. And these guys traveled the world basically preparing for this. Got blown out. I don't want to give away too much away because everybody's seen it all anyway, but got blown out by the Russians just a few days before the Olympics, and then all of a sudden mustered up this energy. And when I look at hockey players now, and it's funny because I see like 18, 19-year-old girls that can recite Herb's locker room speech.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's
man.
incredible,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's great, and just to be a small part of bringing it to people to see it, and it's like you almost can't explain enough how great it is.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just the event, what happened, but to have them together and talking about how it happened, and frankly, they're almost as incredulous sometimes as anybody. They're like, I don't know how we did it. It's like because again, how good the Russians were, like
Right.
blowing out NHL teams and NHL All-Star teams, and it's like all of a sudden there's a bunch of kids who got crushed by them a week before, all of a sudden are playing them, and they're like, yeah, we got a chance. And it's just not to get too over the top, but it's everybody loves the Davy and Goliath story and all that stuff. So it resonates with our country, and maybe now as much as ever, actually.
All right, we know the details. It's going to be here in Vegas, the 22nd, 2 p.m. right here at Thomas Mack Center, where we're at today at UNLV. So, kudos for that, because that's a great venue. And a lot of people go, yeah, I remember UNLV basketball.
Yeah,
We're going to
yeah.
put hockey right in the center of this thing, which I think is really cool. One of the things, though, that I want to ask you before we leave today is, tell me how big you think the 1980 Miracle was in really moving the hockey meter. I mean, you've been around Gretzky for years, and you know that his trade from Edmonton to LA really moved it into the States and the Sun Belt. But now, did you ever think, let me ask you this, 30 years ago, did you ever think NCAA hockey was going to appear at ASU?
No, I no. You know what? And I was lucky. Again, I was lucky enough to work for the Coyotes. So,
Right.
so I was, on the early stages of all that, and learn to skate, and free hockey for people to teach them the game, and then eventually Austin Matthews comes out of that as the number one pick. So the growth is amazing, and certainly there's no question. It's Wayne gets asked that question a lot. Is like, but when you went to LA, did that change hockey? Well, of course it did. To bring him into that market, but I've actually seen interviews recently, again doing archival stuff, an interview with Wayne, I think it was with David Letterman, back when he went to the Rangers. So, and then David asked him, he said, you were so instrumental in bringing hockey to, and he goes, yeah, but the 1980 Miracle on Ice did a lot too, so there's no question. The current climate in America for hockey and how great it is, certainly the roots are in the 1980 team for all of us. I was 12 years old or whatever it was when that happened. So it's like, I know what it meant to me, and I know what it just brought it to the consciousness of America more so than just on Hockey Night in Canada or whatever. So it certainly had a big effect.
And we'll wrap things up by saying that the growth in the Desert Southwest really is to Vegas, and that, like you said, kind of the parallel of the two programs. And I don't want to say programs because Vegas is so much more than the Golden Knights, but definitely the Golden Knights spearheaded this. I don't think even half a dozen years ago I would have said, I'm going to go to Vegas and watch some really good hockey. I'm going to Vegas and watching really good hockey at a lot of different levels right now.
Yeah, there's no question. And my son plays plays youth hockey, and came even just like in his time as a youth hockey player, from the time he was, let's say, 10 till the time he was 15 in Las Vegas. It certainly got better. Not to mention in Phoenix. So it's like, those of us who are Phoenix residents or have been around or have been part of that, the growth, I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of it. And Austin Matthews is just it's sort of the pinnacle, when you went first overall. Yeah. But there's players that are playing in the Western Hockey League and players that are playing at USN TDP and stuff like that. So it's like we should be proud, and but it just shows the overall growth of hockey in America. But Southwest, we're right up there with everybody else.
Okay, last word for you. When I go see ASU NCAA hockey at media availabilities during the week, I look and I ask all the Canadian kids that come down here to play, I go like, did you ever think that you were going to grow up in Canada, in Calgary, Edmonton, and all of a sudden you were going to choose to play collegiate hockey at Arizona State? And they all tell me one thing, no. And the secondary part of that is, we love coming to the rink in shorts and flip-flops.
No, quite. That's listen, I'm originally from the Rochester, Buffalo, New York area, so I know all about that. And when my son used to be able to show up at the rink in flip-flops, I was like, you don't know how easy you have it. So might take a little bit away from the overall experience, but certainly that's what pretty good recruiting tool too.
Jeff, I appreciate the time. We're going to try to grab at you as much as we can between now and February 22nd, because we're going to be doing a lot on this. This is a big thing. It's a personal thing to me too. It means an awful lot to me, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys are going to put on.
I'll be around. Thank you.